Item B under old business is Ordinance O-18-16. Ordinance reappropriating $79,000 of proceeds of obligations not needed for the original purpose in order to provide for various municipal facility improvements in the Township of Rockaway in the County of Morris, New Jersey. This is under discussion because, as Mr. Wittig noted at the last meeting where we had public input, this ordinance that we have before us reappropriates $79,000, but nowhere in the 6 pages of the document does it tell us what that purpose is. So could someone in the administration explain what this where this money is intended to be used for?
Yes, if you look at your budget pages, the capital budget program that you received in January, on the bottom of the Excel, it will say reauthorize, repurpose ordinance. And the first one is the money's coming from Fleetwood Drive, Section 2, 16, and that is being reappropriated for the municipal parking lot, to increase the parking lot by 55 parking spaces. It is a safety.
There are 3 capital sheets, correct?
I just have the Excel that was on.
So you don't have the actual budget book pages. So
What this was, it says the capital budget program 2023.
so I have a page that at the top of it, so these are the pages that I have printed from the budget book, which is also, if anyone's interested in looking at it, if you go on the township website and you look under transparency and you look at the budget section, you'll see the operating expenses, the salary expenses, and then you'll see capital expenses. So there's a PDF just for the capital. It's 3 pages. The first page starts off with the heading Information Technology. It ends at Buildings and Grounds. The second page, if you're trying to kind of keep track of on your spreadsheet there. Page 1 is from Information Technology to Buildings and Grounds. So Buildings and Grounds ends page 1 on the document.
Yes.
The next page starts off with Parks and Rec and Senior Services, and it ends with new projects funded through existing public safety. And then page 3 is water, and there's a subtotal in grand total. So that's what the pages look like. So, Ms. Seeger, if you wouldn't mind, with those 3 pages, can you point us to the page?
On the second page, on mine, it has goal on the bottom. Do you see that?
Okay, I see the word goal.
Okay, under there it says reauthorize, repurpose, old ordinance from 2006 and 2007,
Okay.
various municipal facility improvements.
Okay.
And then it says, these are the 2 ordinances that I was talking about, because 15 and 16 go together. Fleetwood Drive Section 2 is $79,000 repurposed. Fleetwood Drive Section 3, I guess I misspoke before, sorry, is they're taking money from there. Then the new project funded.
Well, if we could just stick with the ordinance we're on, just so we can make sure we're all following. So.
But the one we're on combines 01816 and 01815 go together. And then it says new projects funded from old capital ordinance.
Can I ask you?
Parking lot, 110.
So the one that we're looking at is, we're on Ordinance 01816. That corresponds to the first line labeled Fleetwood
Drive Section 2, yeah.
And where is that located?
On where?
On Fleetwood?
Section 2.
Fleetwood Drive, Section 2, from Miller. The last Section 3 was from Hope Road up the hill heated biller, and then the next section 2 was a flat section, and then the first section was up by heated. So there were 3 sections in order. One was up by heated, second one was in the middle, and the third one down the mountain order.
Do we have any drawings showing that? Because all we have in front of us is an ordinance moving money around. We don't actually have any kind of drawing or plan indicating where, what the project will be doing.
That isn't a project that's being done. Fleetwood is where the extra money is coming from. They finished those projects, and that money was left in the budget.
So you're not, the purpose is not Fleetwood Drive?
No, the
That's the
purpose-
source of the project? All right. So getting to my original question, what is the intended purpose of the money?
It's right below that, it says new projects funded with old capital ordinance. Municipal parking lot improvements, 110,000, and gazebo improvements, 95,000. And that's where those 15, that's why I said 01816 and 01815 go together to fund those two.
So on the ordinance we just adopted, item G had
50,000.
Parks Lake improvements, Park Lake Memorial at an amount of 50,000. And with that, just bear with me for a moment while I grab it. We got this site diagram. That was the backup before that.
It's actually what I need to explain, it's for both. I have to look at 15 and 16 together.
So this site diagram, the cost of this is not just the 50,000 that was in ordinance 01811. There's another 95,000 that has to come out of additional, previously authorized ordinances?
Correct.
What's the total cost of the project that you projected?
I don't know if we had an actual cost. We did
Good to go up.
we might have to, I don't know how much it's going to be until you do the actual drawing. We can do an estimate, but because it's QPA, you don't like to give those estimates out in public. You're going up to bid if you allow it. We don't, like when we have an engineer estimate, we don't give that out before we go out to bid. Because
Okay.
it takes away from the competitiveness of your bidding, because if everybody knows what your estimated cost is, all the bids are going to come in at that price. So we
Okay.
try not to let them know.
But there needs to be, for this governing body to make an informed decision, right? This governing body needs to know what the costs are associated with the plan, the project, before we fund it. So that's why these items are up here under discussion, because I think it's...
Well, I will tell
I
you
mean,
though-
Ms. Seeger, I'll let you speak in a moment, but can I just, with regards to the council members, was that clear to anyone before we reviewed the sheets here? The funding, the gazebo project? So these items are here under discussion so we can have this discussion because we didn't have that information. And it sounds like, based on what you've just advised, you wouldn't necessarily want to give all the numbers out in public because of the impact it would have on obviously vendors paying attention, reading the minutes, listening to the audio, now knowing what numbers to work with and somehow magically coming in within $1 of what's budgeted, right?
Correct.
But this governing body certainly has a need to understand the costs of these projects better before we take any action on this. So, and these items are under discussion here, and what I'd like to propose is that the administration go back, put together some memos with regard to these purposes so that this governing body can be better informed as to what you intend to use these for, what you expect the costs are, have those memos be.
Well, actually, this is perfect for what Mr. Kelly suggested, because now we'll need more money for the ground and stuff.
We really don't know them.
So Mr. Mayor, are you then agreeing that you should go back, take a look, and come back?
I do. Again, we explained it to you that you can allocate this money and you can shut it down in the bids bank.
Yeah.
So you're not going to extend any money, any funding whatsoever. You're just allocating it. You're just moving it around. It's already there. It doesn't cost you anything.
Can I
Yeah.
explain something?
Ms. Seeger, please continue.
We have a conceptual plan that you have in front of you for a drawing. I guess I can put it as an analogy, like I'm putting a pool in my backyard. I have a plan that looks good and it looks like I can do that project. then I'm gonna go out to bid, and I'm gonna get an estimate on how much it costs. But I don't wanna spend a ton of money getting an exact total if I'm not gonna have the money to do the project. So I need some money that I can put aside, that I can say we have this, and then I'm gonna go out to bid, and then I'm gonna find out if I have enough money or not. You have the final say if we go out to bid or not. This is just approving a budget the budget is just an item that we can do. We told you what the project was, we gave you a conceptual plan like you asked. We're not expending any more taxpayer dollars to do it because we are moving money that we had left over from Jim and his engineers doing a great job on making sure those projects came in under bid. And now we're not asking the people, we did what you asked for, we're minimizing what is done in the past and not authorizing new money to get done the projects we want to get done. We look for old money, as this was a capital project presented to you in the beginning of the year in January, and we had like 4 or 5 meetings to go over this. I didn't hear any objection at those meetings to this plan, so I would like to move forward and do the money, and you can turn it down when you don't like the plan when we go out for it.
Yeah, so if I may, Mr. Kelly, this is what we received. And we didn't actually, as a council, get this diagram, this drawing, until just before these ordinances were to appear on the first meeting they were scheduled for. This never came up in our budget meetings. And that's actually...
You saying you just got this week?
No, before the first agenda that these items appeared on, which is why I asked for them to be placed under discussion at that time so we can discuss these things. But, excuse me, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I'll let you speak. Ms. Seegers stated that we have, like putting in a pool, we have a good idea of what we're looking for. Well, this drawing, based on the conversation we just had regarding the previous ordinance, no longer reflects what this governing body is looking for. It doesn't have the ADA compliant, doesn't have the other things that were discussed. The mayor's already agreed to go back to the drawing board to quote Mr. Carmagnola. It seems to me to be premature to be moving funds around when this governing body doesn't have a real sense of cost. I'm hesitant to do that. You saw 2 council members already vote no on the previous ordinance, I believe, for that very reason. And I'm not inclined to vote on these items tonight either until the administration has an opportunity to go back to the drawing board to better explain to us what the intended final purpose will be, reflecting the conversation that just took place. Like, the question that I have is there anything else in these, aside from this drawing that's in front of us, are there any other projects in these, we're talking about these 2 ordinances, but the first one or the second one, just so we have the right number, 16 or 15, that are funding other projects that we're not currently aware of, that we don't have any drawings for or plans or memos regarding.
Not that I'm aware of. You have the parking lot, which is a real safety problem, and that we need to get that done for the court. And the gazebo project, as the mayor said, we will incorporate everything we can tonight, but we need the money to move forward to get the plan. We don't have that in our budget.
Can you, so this is the first I'm hearing about the parking lot project. Do we have any documents, any memos?
Yes, you received it.
Okay. When did we receive
received it? About a month ago. In your packet, when we came to vote on this, we gave you a drawing of the parking lot and conceptual plan.
Does anyone else have that document with them?
Mr. Kelly.
I mean, I dug through, this is the, and I have a bunch of papers here, because I did have some emails from you, but Councilmember Kelly?
This is Steve, are we talking about the improvements that are taking place out here, which maybe this was over in the library?
Yes, and you all got that.
These under the inclination that we're talking about Peterson Field, would you indicate?
No, this says municipal parking lot.
Putting up the 200 plus parking spaces is current.
Yeah, but no, this I said was going to be the municipal parking lot here, that I said the library, the court, we have more court here, we have a shared service. We have to improve the safety of our parking lot.
No, absolutely. And you know, with the gazebo ordinance that we just passed for the 50 grand, what threshold of money do we need to go forward? Is 50,000 enough to start, even though, do we need this extra 95 to make it happen? I mean, is 50 fine? Is 85 fine?
I can't answer that question, but it's
You
not
have money to go.
it's not costing any extra money for you to do this, because we're not going to spend this money until we need it, and we're not going out for a bond. We already have it allocated so it's already there. And we're not gonna go out for the bond
You're
until
just
October or
you're
November.
reallocating something that's already there. It's not costing you money. It's not, you asked for those plans, okay? We'll go back to the basketball courts. You want a conceptual plan of the courts. I gave you a
Mr. Mayor,
conceptual plan.
Mr. Mayor, we're discussing the two ordinances in front of us. We'll have time to discuss that.
You keep raising that picture. The conceptual
Is
plan.
this a photo?
That's false.
Which
That's
which no longer matches the discussion that took place
No,
here,
that's what you're-
right? Based on discussion we just had, this is no longer an accurate reflection of what the town intends to do. That's why we're having this
No, yes, it
discussion.
does. It was adding a little ramp.
Right?
Oh, my God.
So,
It's good.
I think we need to move forward with the parking lot. It's a safety issue.
Mr. Kelly, and then if anyone else has any questions or comments.
I did.
Can't hear you.
On the plan.
Use the microphone.
Use the microphone,
Yeah.
can't hear you.
For the 200-plus parking spaces that you have, the compliance would be for the ADA would be 6 parking spaces?
I'm not an expert on the
Okay, I'm just-
ADA.
we were talking about the plan, we have it in the
Right.
plan, I thought you
And
remembered the plan.
I did remember, I do saw the plan, but
Yeah.
maybe the engineer can answer
Okay,
that.
it's just a question, maybe Mr. Lutz can help out.
The set requirement for handicap space is based on the total number, and working with the consultant engineer, I'm sure we're meeting that threshold. We can double check that out before the plan.
And it wasn't a matter of the compliance of meeting the allegation that we need X amount per space. However, when we come out of the off-ramp here for the handicap accessibility to go around down to from the front stairs, there would be access of a parking space that could be dedicated for handicap, which is right where the egress is to come into the ramp. And I was just wondering if anything bars us from adding one additional handicap accessibility, which would be more prudent to put it there, because we have them in the front that are further down, and it's an incline to go up. But if we put it in the corner, which is kind of like the last parking space for where our employees park, we have handicap accessibility on the other end to the library. So could we make one additional space handicap compliant, which is right where the entrance is to the ramp?
We can take a look at that. Usually you have the handicap spaces by the front door for ADA regulations.
It is on the front doors,
Right,
right?
but it's going to be, when we go out for design, it's going to come up.
You already have a design.
No, we have concessions.
Okay.
We didn't,
That's all, just something, again, it's just nothing bars us from increasing it or
No.
changing from one location to the other. Any easier access to still up.
and I do have one other comment. If you approve this money, we may be able to incorporate more of an improvement at Parks Lake than we originally planned when we go out and include everything you want in that plan. It may be a bonus, so everybody might go there. And we don't have to, spend it, and we're not going out yet, we already have it. So I don't see any negative.
We have a commitment that we're going to move forward with the plan, put it all together.
Yes.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions with regard to ordinance 018-16? Would anyone like to move this ordinance? Moved by Abrahamson, second by Kelly. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none.
Is that 16?
We're
That's
we're on
just 16.
08 we're on 018-16 presently.
Right, I knew the line below the 15.
We're on, excuse me. We are on 018-16 only. The ordinance reappropriating $79,000 of proceeds of obligations not needed for their original purpose in order to provide for various municipal facility improvements in the township of Rockaway in the county of Morris, New Jersey. Hearing no further discussion, I will call the roll. Councilmember Quinn.
Yes.
Councilmember Friedlander.
Yes.
Councilmember Puzo.
Yes.
Councilmember Palumbo.
Yeah.
Councilmember Smith. Councilmember Sackett.
Yes.
Council Vice President Abrahamson.
Yes.
Council President Jednak, I vote yes.
You passed it.
Councilmember Kelly.
Yes.
My apologies. I count 9 yes, 0 no, 0 abstentions. Ordinance is introduced. Next on the agenda is Ordinance O-18-15, ordinance reappropriating $184,000 of proceeds of obligations not needed for their original purpose in order to provide for various municipal facility improvements in the Township of Rockaway in the County of Morris, New Jersey. So we just had discussion on 16, this is 15, per Ms. Seeger's comments. Ordinance 15 goes along with Ordinance 16, is that correct?
Correct.
And is the funding is coming out of the Fleetwood Drive Section 3 ordinance, and is going to be used for the two projects just discussed, gazebo improvements and municipal parking lot.
Correct.
Okay. We all know what we're voting on. Is there a motion to introduce Ordinance let me read it first. Ordinance O-18-15, ordinance reappropriating $184,000 of proceeds of obligations not needed for their original purpose in order to provide for various municipal facility improvements in the Township of Rockaway in the County of Morris, New Jersey. Is there a motion?
Second.
A motion by Freelander, second by Quinn. Is there any further discussion on this ordinance? Hearing none, I will call the roll in a moment. Councilmember Quinn.
Yes.
Councilmember Friedlander.
Yes.
Councilmember Puziel.
Yes.
Councilmember Palumbo.
No.
Councilmember Smith.
Yes.
Councilmember Sackett.
Yes.
Councilmember Kelly.
Yes.
Council Vice President Abrahamson.
Yes.
Council President Jednak, I vote yes. 1 yes, 0 no, 0 abstentions. Ordinance is introduced. 8, excuse me. Excuse me. 8 yes, 1 no, 0 abstention. Ordinance is introduced. The next item we have on the agenda ordinance is Ordinance 018-14, ordinance reappropriating $90,000 of proceeds of the obligations not needed for their original purpose in order to provide for basketball courts design and construction and Peterson Field parking rehabilitation in the Township of Rockaway in the County of Morris, New Jersey. I believe Councilmember Kelly has some questions about this.
I'm sorry, we're on.
Correct.
And the parking lot rehab.
Microphone,
Sorry. The parking lot rehab, where is that in reference that we're questioning here?
That's the lowest parking lot near the snack bars and basketball. That wasn't the only one not redone when we redid the parking lot.
Okay. And the additional is for the basketball court design itself?
Yes.
With the basketball court, actually the whole complex, what does the complex actually cater to? Does it cater to junior sports, high school sports?
You know what? I think it's for the residents to do anything in sports they want. I would think it's a public park that,
Do we have programs for high school?
I think we have
We do.
basketball.
Yeah, Babe Ruth baseball.
We have baseball.
Babe Ruth is a high school program, or that's still township?
The next school age kids.
It can be both.
But it's not for the high school, it's not for Marshall Sports Service.
For the basketball, it can be very much.
Okay. And the question I have for the basketball court itself, what size are we actually going to somewhat conform this to? Are we conforming it to junior sports, high school sports? And it really sounds crazy, but even professional sports, because there's a size difference between
It's a basketball.
sports.
Correct.
So are we,
Can I come this to Jim?
yeah,
Yeah, the preliminary plan shows, I think you might have received that from the package, showed modifying the existing three courts, extending two of the courts to make more regulation size, and the existing court closest to the concession building, because of the slope limitation, will remain the same length. So we'll be able to increase two of the courts to full regulation size.
74 foot, or are we going to the 75 foot or 85 foot?
It's like 84 feet. 80
All
or
right, so
84
84 by
feet from
50.
baseline to baseline. It's the industry standard for those competitive sports. But the court closest concession building further to the north, that is constrained to the topography, it's got to stay the same length as it is today. And that was on the plan that we got right there.
I don't have a question.
Who's that plan distributed? Any council members up here recall receiving that plan?
I'm a little lost, Mr. Douglas, as to what you were looking at something.
He wasn't sure when that was, Mike, excuse me, Mayor, I don't.
So let's say
Seven again.
the Patrick was actually doing this almost a year ago. The plan to make improvements to the basketball courts, and then it stalled. And now it's been somewhat revamped from the last insurance issues that we had over there. But has Patrick prepared the concept plan?
That's the exact plan I'm referring to.
Well, I only know that from talking to Patrick. I never witnessed anything.
The plan I described with the two courts closest to Fleetwood Drive and one court closest to concession building, those are the ones that were on that.
Would you like to please send us?
Well, the only reason why I spoke to Patrick when I was at the upper lot where they were doing the handicap ramp there, and they were in the process of preparing a plan, and informed me about the stall factor and everything else, because there was an interest that was lost in moving forward. That was only a few weeks ago. They didn't say that there was a completion of a concept plan, other than members of the Ordinance and the rec committee had indicated that inside they had. The mayor said that there was no plan, Mr. Sackett said there was no plan. So, you know, it's just conflicting data of a concept plan donated versus held to Patrick. Never seen anything.
Can we send them to you? I'll send you them.
Yeah, that would be great.
All right, no problem.
And you know what, if you could just resend the email that you sent them to, would be probably appropriate.
All right, I'll-
So who will be sending these plans to the council?
Mr. Les will send them to me and I'll send them to the council.
So Patty, you'll be forwarding them to the council?
Yes.
Well, this is here for discussion and for exactly this purpose, right? There's obviously plans that we need to receive that we haven't. Councilmember Smith.
So I never received those plans either, so my question is, this is saying it's for the design of the basketball court, but those plans that you're going to forward to us, that you have,
There we go.
are they the design, or are they redundant?
The concept plan.
The concept plan?
So then the design will go off that?
Yes, and we have to go higher, pay more, spend more money. Yes, correct.
Looking at the capital budget sheet, page 2, what we received at budget time actually says basketball court resurfacing. Whereas the ordinance before us for discussion now says design and construction.
It's totally different.
It says design and construction,
Yes.
which is,
This one, right? This one's design and construction. This one's design and construction. This is what you guys asked for, plans to move forward.
We don't have plans, that's the point, Mr. Mayor. No, Mr. Mayor, we need a plan, this is part of Peterson Field.
I know you
right?
need plans.
We need a comprehensive plan.
We're gonna accept
As you
plans, but we still-
You heard Mr. Carmagnola say it earlier, that there should be a comprehensive plan rather than piecemealing. You've heard majority of this council echo that sentiment
Okay.
for months now.
I have a plan that everybody put out probably 15 years ago with the $8-9 million rec center at the top, a bunch of other, I can send that to you if that's what you want.
Mr. Mayor, we'd like a, Mr. Mayor.
We're looking for a plan. We're building pieces.
Mr. Mayor, we're only responding to what you agreed upon, and you're going to deliver to the public and council to review.
Well,
And you're going to provide a plan.
he wants a full plan, a master.
We want a comprehensive plan for Peterson.
I mean, if a rec center would be perfect, $8 million, I can build much better. But you don't know. 4 years from now, they're going to have $4 million, then the plan will change.
Mr. Mayor, the concern that we have is that it sounds like you might be building the $8 million project 1 year at a time without the public really being aware of it, without this council really being aware of it.
The public is
Asking
getting
us-
it, because the public is who drives it.
The public-
basketball courts are bad, Mr. Mayor. Please fix them. Our tennis courts are bad, council. Please fix them.
Mr. Mayor, in all fairness, though, those didn't happen overnight. This has been going on for almost a decade, if not longer.
Exactly. No, not a decade, no.
Only the new administration.
No, we fixed the concession stand, we did the parking lot, we did all the backstops, we did fencing, all, we stayed within the $2 million capital budget for the last 10 years, just like you guys did. So you can only expend a certain amount of money each year, like I said before, and prioritize what needs to be done.
Okay, but Mr. Mayor, you can't prioritize what needs to be done without knowing what needs to be done overall. If that list, if that plan doesn't exist, to piecemeal this year after year after year.
Piecemeal, that's your-
It is piecemeal, it is piecemeal, it is exactly the comment made by the public. This governing body is not writing blank checks
It
for
was not made
piecemeal
by the public.
projects.
That was on a different,
We need to
different
understand,
item. So
Mr.
please
Mayor,
don't use my
what the
name
overall,
again related to
please,
Peterson Field.
please, this is not open to the public.
You used my
So,
name in the wrong
we
attachment.
are, as I've said before, we're looking to understand what the overall plan is, so we can evaluate that, rather than building things piecemeal. So-
This council does agree that we need another field at the top, right?
Mr. Mayor,
I'm asking you.
Mr. Mayor, this council doesn't agree to anything until we present a plan to it. Period. Period. Okay. All right. Order.
Does it
So-
matter if I do basketball courts 1
We
year?
are moving, Mr. Mayor, please stop.
Can I?
We're moving, Ms. Seeger, we're moving off of this item for
Can I
discussion.
just say one thing?
Ms. Seeger, please.
This item is just an item for introduction, and if we send you the conceptual plan, when we put this on for second adoption, if we don't do it, then don't adopt it, but this is just for introduction. This is not spending the money. So can you please introduce it, and I promise I'll send you the conceptual plan. And then we can make a decision at the next meeting if we adopt it.
Okay, Ms. Seeger, the concern that I have with that suggestion is it once again puts us in the position of piecemealing projects. This is part of Peterson Field. Excuse me. This is part of Peterson Field. I've now put the Peterson Field plan for presentation on the agenda. This governing body doesn't have a presentation or plan from the administration as to what the big picture is for Peterson Field as a complex.
I
I'm going to give you a piecemeal presentation every single time.
All right, then we're moving on. We're moving on.
Thank you.
The parking lot?
We have a new business now.
You don't want to take your...
We passed, excuse me, we passed ordinances, we introduced ordinances, 018. Okay, excuse me, Mr. Mayor. We adopted ordinance 018-12. I'm sorry. We introduced ordinance 018-11. We introduced 018-16. We introduced ordinance 018-15. What we have remaining under discussion is 018-14, which we've been discussing. So we're moving on from discussion.
Can we make a motion to introduce introduce that? I don't understand what you mean.
This is on for discussion. If you'd like to make a motion, you can make a motion to introduce it.
Okay, I would like to make a motion to introduce 01814.
I'll second.
Motion by Puzio, second by Quinn. Is there any further discussion on the council? Mr. Kelly?
Mr. Puzio, in regards to this ordinance we want here, we've already talked to the administration, including the mayor, to give us a plan. It's not divided in half where you can only vote on a portion of this ordinance. It's going to be its entirety to move it forward without the plan with regard to the basketball. We do understand that.
Absolutely, that's what I want to do. I want to move this forward. I heard Ms. Seeger speak that we can stop this at any time, that we can get the plans, we can move forward, we can look at them, and we can stop this at any time if this council as a whole does not want to do it. So I would like to move forward.
No, don't answer for me about not wanting to do it. I was just asking you a particular question in the sense that you understand
Yes, I do.
that it's not something that you can subdivide as far as what we have here to vote upon. You understand that, right? Thank you.
If I may just clarify, this ordinance is up for introduction. This governing body can amend the ordinance if it sees fit. If there's a motion to amend the ordinance, for instance, to move forward with the parking rehab project only, that motion can be made if a council member would like to make that motion, to amend this ordinance for only one of the two projects listed. There's a motion to amend by... Yes, we have a motion on the floor, we have a motion to amend.
Oh, yeah, the motion on the floor.
So questions of order are determined by the council president according to our code. Excuse me, Mr. Puzio, you don't have the floor, nor does Mr. Yaktana. Okay, well, perhaps you could just wait until I consult with Robert's rules.
Such a funny little thing. I guess he doesn't ask his name a lot. Exactly.
Excuse me. Okay, we will recess for 10 minutes. We will return back at 11:20 p.m. Recess for 10 minutes.
Going on the motion.
So I've consulted, for those who are interested, this is Robert's Rules of Order, simplified and applied, 3rd edition, which is the version of Robert's Rules that I consult. Page 245 says the following subsidiary motions can be applied to main motions. The main motion being the motion we have before us, which is the introduction of Ordinance 018-14. And among the subsidiary motions to that main motion is the motion to amend. The purpose of the motion to amend is to change the main motion, either to make it more agreeable or not. If someone has made a motion, someone else can propose an amendment to that motion. So that is the answer to that. So I will entertain a subsidiary motion to amend this ordinance if any council member would like to make such a subsidiary motion.
to, of 1814,
Can't hear you.
funds to fix the parking lot.
Okay, so Councilmember Palumbo, if I understood your motion correctly, it is to limit ordinance 018-14 to only the parking rehabilitation project.
Yes.
Is that correct? Is there a second? I will second it.
Oh, my God. Really kidding.
I will call the
You
roll.
want to thank you?
What is the motion? Please vote.
The motion is to amend ordinance 018-14 to restrict it to only the Peterson Field parking rehabilitation project. Order. Councilmember Quinn.
No.
Councilmember Friedlander.
No.
Councilmember Puccio.
No.
Councilmember Palumbo.
Yes.
Councilmember Smith.
Yes.
Councilmember Sackett.
No.
Councilmember Kelly.
Yes.
Councilmember Abrahamson.
Yes.
Council President Jednak, I vote yes. I count 5 yes, 4 no, 0 abstentions. The motion is amended. We have before us ordinance 018-14 for introduction, limited only to the Peterson Field parking rehabilitation project.
So to clarify,
No,
that's
we can adjust that.
$40,000?
And we're waiting on the plan.
We can, to answer that question, yes, that portion of that project can come back to us as a separate ordinance at a later date. Ms. Seeger,
So you want to say ordinance reappropriating $40,000 because that was the.
whatever the amount is for the rehabilitation project only.
40,000.
And the wording also to, if there's wording specific to one project or the other than that, wording should also be updated to reflect the Peterson Field parking rehabilitation project only.
Okay, thank you.
I will call the roll on the main motion. Councilmember Quinn.
Yes.
Councilmember Friedlander.
Yes.
Councilmember Puccio.
Yes.
Councilmember Palumbo.
No.
Councilmember Smith. Councilmember Sackett.
Yes.
Councilmember Kelly.
Yeah.
Councilmember Abrahamson.
No.
Councilmember Jednak. I vote no. I count 5 no, 4 yes, 0 abstention. So, this is, did everyone understand what we were voting on? That we were voting on the amended ordinance introduction, not the original. Excuse me, Mr. Mayor. Do council members understand that the first motion that was made was on the original ordinance. The subsidiary motion was to amend the ordinance. So the amendment was made. The vote we just took place was on the amended ordinance. Okay? Everybody understand? So if
Thank you.
So, excuse me, if the audience would please, so, for the benefit of the council members who might have been confused, We have a motion. We had a motion that was amended, so we voted to amend it. That vote we just took was to vote on the amended ordinance. So those who voted no, because they voted no, have the ability now, if they'd like to reintroduce that amended ordinance, can make that motion to do so.
You voted it down. Changed it and voted against it.
Excuse me, Sergeant at Arms, you please address the audience.
Okay, we get it.
Sergeant at Arms, can you please address the audience members who are being disruptive and loud? So, for any council members who might have been confused about the vote just taken, those who voted no because you voted no, have the opportunity to make a motion to reintroduce it, or we can move on, and Ordinance 018-14 is simply not introduced at this meeting as is. So if anybody wants to make a motion, I'm giving the opportunity to do that now. Excuse me, Mr. Mayor. Excuse me, Mr. Mayor. You're not comfortable. We give council members another opportunity. Hearing none, we will now move forward. So ordinance 018-14 as amended has not passed. Item number 14, new business. We have an appointment, A. Mayor Dashton to appoint with council consent Robert D. Tovo as the business administrator for the Township of Rockaway. Resolution R-18-110, resolution authorizing the appointment of Robert D. Tovo as business administrator for the Township of Rockaway. Mr. Mayor, anything you'd like to say about the appointment?
I've been here the last 2 meetings, I hope he still wants to. We did an extensive search. We interviewed 8 people qualified, and we came down to Mr. Tovo, who works in a neighboring town. He was police chief over in Mountain Lakes, and then he was the VA there for 4 or 5 years. So I'm making him an offer to come here if he wants to come. Hopefully, that'll be a good addition to our town. Some of you know him, some of you talked with him already, so he's a good guy, and hopefully we can start moving forward with everything. So.
Is that it, Mr. Mayor?
That's it.
Okay. Are there any council members who have any comments with regard to this appointment? I have a couple of comments. As I look at this resolution, the third paragraph of it references a special committee composed of the mayor, members of the council, department heads, and township attorney, but doesn't name the actual members. But I will refer the mayor to the Township Code, Administrative Code Chapter 2, we talked about earlier today. Page 12, all special committees and the chairman thereof shall be appointed by the council president at a regular conference for special meetings. So special committees, that's the word that you have here, are appointed by the council president according to our code. So this resolution would appear to violate the code, as we've discussed that. It's special committees, all special committees, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I allow you to speak. I appreciate the same courtesy in return. Township Code, Chapter 2, page 12. All special committees and the chairman thereof shall be appointed by the council president at regular conference for special meeting. I didn't appoint any special committee for this, and nor did the council vice president in my absence. You note the other resolution that we passed earlier today with an appointment. We referenced a special committee that was appointed by me at a meeting back in April. The members of that committee were also publicly known. Everybody knew who they were, and they conducted the search. I'm also missing is a copy of the proposed contract for this position. Same issue occurred a year ago with the last business administrator that was, right, no, right. You're asking us to make an appointment without having an opportunity to review a contract that would also go with it.
It's a no contract agreement.
You're not going to have any contract for this employee. I will also reference that back in April, when the position became vacant, I reached out to the mayor by email twice, requesting to meet with him and the council vice president to discuss the position, even before the position was posted. The mayor ignored the council president and the council vice president in this process. He didn't want to meet with us. Now he's seeking to go to the council. I have a problem with the process that the mayor had here in ignoring myself and the council vice president, and I'm not inclined to vote for this appointment. In fact, I'll be voting no on this appointment. So I've made my comments. Are there any other council members who would like to speak that haven't spoken yet? Councilmember Palumbo.
I'd like to ask the mayor why.
Excuse me.
I'd like to ask the mayor why council president nor vice president were on the committee.
Because the email that I got from the council president and the vice president was in a threatening manner. Well, I shouldn't say it was from the council vice president. I basically got an ultimatum whether to put him and Patty on the council or on a committee or else, basically. I have the email, I'll post it later on online, you'll see it. I told him that I will put people on a committee from the council. I took one Democrat, I took one from my side, and I took one from their side. Now, I have to say sides because we all know there's sides up here, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, they had, so the might, oh, really? That's a surprise? So we had a committee, we put it out there.
Who are the members of the committee, Mr. Mayor? It's not in your resolution.
I don't need a resolution.
You have a resolution right here before us.
No. Did I have to put it on the committee? It was on the committee. No.
The resolution that we passed earlier with an appointment with a special committee, I listed all the members. Is there some reason why you're not listing the
The
members?
council appointment is different. This is an appointment
All right.
set in general, okay? This is different. This is a mayor's one. I know you really want to be mayor. That's that. But just let me do my job, please. We can move forward from here.
Mr. Mayor, can I have the names of the person on the committee, please?
Yeah, it was Mr. Cruzio, Mr. Sackett, I had Mrs. Smith, I had Mrs. Seeger, Mr. Lutz, Lisa Palmieri, and Mr. Giacomo given that.
Mrs. Smith was not on the committee.
I have it.
Mrs. Smith was invited to the committee and she had.
Did you participate in any of the interviews?
No.
Were you on the committee, Mr. Mayor?
Oh, no.
Were you or were you not?
Yes.
Okay. Are there any further comments or questions by any council members? Hearing none, I will call the roll.
Oh, we gotta make a,
I'm making this appointment.
Yes, the vote we're about to have is on making, on
I don't
the,
understand, okay.
Councilmember Smith, you have a question?
From what I read in the,
Microphone, please.
from the resume, I don't believe that this gentleman was familiar with the Falkirk form of government. He doesn't have any experience with mayor, council.
Not really.
But we have a business administrator, why are we not?
We had a clerk, too.
But she's been a assistant business administrator here for how many years?
How long was the clerk for?
A couple of years? Well, I just don't understand why we need two.
And I think, Councilmember Smith, you make a good point. I made the note here, give me a moment. So there are 39 towns in Morris County, 39 municipalities. Only 3 others, Hardy, Montville, Mount Olive, have an assistant BA and a business administrator. If you look at large towns like Rockaway that have them all, Bridgewater and Wayne, Neither one has both a business administrator and an assistant VA.
Okay?
So, to the point that Ms. Smith, Councilmember Smith made, I continue to stand firm in that I will be voting against this appointment. Are there any other comments? Are there any other comments or questions by council members? Hearing none, I will now call the roll. Councilmember Quinn.
He said yes.
Councilmember Friedlander.
Yes.
Councilmember Puziel.
Yes.
Councilmember Palumbo. Councilmember Smith. Councilmember Sackett. Councilmember Kelly. Yes. 0 abstentions.
So you tell them
The appointment is not passed. We continue to have an assistant VA, a business administrator.
Oh my
perform the
God,
function.
unbelievable.
Well, you did.
Next on the agenda, Mr. Mayor, you had your opportunity to speak on that point. Next on the agenda, we
So you
have,
tell them what happened.
next on the agenda is, excuse me,
In a way, Dr.
excuse me. Next on the agenda, we have Resolution R18-124, which was
Screw with this man's life.
drafted by the administration.
Shame on you.
The administration, Mr. Mayor, would you like to introduce this resolution to us? Resolution R18-124 under new business.
Mark.
No, Mark's ready.
I'd ask the resolution R18-124 be placed on the agenda, bring before the council, seeking approval to continue the annualized reassessment process within the township of Rockaway. We embarked on reassessment or doing inspections after our 2011 for 2012 reval. We've continued to do inspections for the 2018 year. We pulled the trigger, so to speak, to change values for 2018. I would like to continue the process of inspections and changing values on an annualized basis. It keeps the township at a 100% ratio, keeps everybody on the same standardization of value, and basically it helps us in the tax appeal process with all of our commercial appeals. I believe doing nothing and just letting our ratio fall is inappropriate for the township. Preliminary calculations for our ratio for 2019 are running about 89% to true value. So that can have an impact on any of our commercial properties who come in and say, I like my assessment, but because our ratio is 90%, take 10% right off the top. Which would be refunds and or credits to those properties. By keeping everybody at 100, we do not experience that ratio loss or lag in assessed value or in refunds.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, with regards to this resolution, I didn't see any concurrence from the administration or from you with regard to this resolution. Do you concur with this resolution?
I didn't know any concurrence was required.
Well, this is coming from the administration, right? So is this a resolution that you have?
I understand.
So you don't have an opinion on this resolution? All right, I just want to make sure.
I don't have an opinion.
All right. I asked you, Mr. Mayor, you had
I
an
know why you're
opportunity.
asking me, your grandson again.
You had an opportunity, Mr.
Property
Mayor.
values go up, oh, it's the mayor, not the council.
Okay, excuse me. You had an opportunity, Mr. Mayor, you've chosen not to exercise it. Any council members have any questions about this resolution before us?
As I understand it, the whole town would be reassessed every year?
Correct.
Councilmember Kelly, do you have a question?
Mr. Barak, in regards to what we've done in the past of the quarterly amount that we have of the 2,500 homes out of 10,000, doing it an annually thing, is this in addition to that? to keep the assessments at that 1200% mark? Or is this something outside of what we've already done right now that plan has been followed?
Over the last 6 years, we've basically been doing just inspections to keep our options open for completing valuation changes. I feel that it was one part of it, but now to move to the next step, which is to make those annualized changes. In addition, we have to, as per the state regulation, inspect 20 to 25% of our line items per year. The quote given by Appraisal Systems, who just completed our last reassessment, they're basically looking at doing the inspections as well as assisting my office in the valuation changes at the same value as just doing the inspection. So for me, I'm looking at it from the standpoint of value of what we're spending, we're getting almost a 2.1.
That was my next question. The value amount that we're spending on this $65,000, the benefits that come out of that $65,000 investment would definitely outweigh the initial cost that we're spending here.
Correct, because if you're going to then wait a 10-year period or two till you're ordered to do a revaluation, you're going to be spending $350,000 to $500,000 in 1 year to complete it. By doing this over the next, right now it's for a 1 year, but we're going to look to extend it over a 5-year period. Say each year for 5 years, we're going to change all the values and see how that effect has on our tax appeals. Doing what we've been doing over the last 6 years has certainly benefited the township where we haven't lost any large appeals.
But it also could benefit the property owners as well, or businesses, because it keeps them in check, or they may have some lowering aspect of something that we're missing. There are errors that take place, whether it's in-house or these outside agencies that we use as a subcontract. So it's just really keeping an honest number as close as we possibly can.
Correct.
During that period of time.
Correct.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Burek, this was scheduled for the last meeting as a presentation to the council. In this meeting, this is now in resolution form. When it was to be on the agenda as a presentation, I had reached out to you to discuss the presentation, and you had informed me at that time that there's an issue of timing here, where the township needs to, if the township is going to act, the township needs to provide you with that direction prior to some deadline, and there's a process that takes place thereafter. Could you describe that a little bit for all of us?
Currently, I must receive an approval from the Morris County Board of Taxation that by application showing I have a resolution that I'm authorized to do this, monies are set aside for it, and I have a contract ready to be signed by the administration. County Tax Board will meet on July 19th, and they'll make a determination whether they're going to allow the township to move forward. After that, the application, once approved or should be approved by the Morris County Board of Taxation, has to be to the Division of Taxation on or before August 1st. That is a hard deadline. So once everything is in order from Morris County, it will be sent to the state, and the state will then either approve or deny our application. If they deny our application, we're not moving forward. If they approve our application, then we can move forward.
And so the timetable is that you need a decision from this governing body in advance of 7/19. We're at July 10th, so our last regularly scheduled meeting before the 19th, in order to meet that 8/1 deadline if the governing body wants to do that. With regard to the reassessment that took place this year, we've gotten a lot of feedback from residents. I know I've gotten a lot of feedback from residents regarding that. When you and I spoke on the phone, we talked about the date by which the August tax bill, the final numbers for the tax rates for this year would be determined. And at the time, we were looking at a looming state shutdown, right? What's the earliest that we will have tax bills that reflect the assessment that just took place?
Right now, all towns are waiting for the revamped state aid numbers for the school purposes. They needed to revamp the formula, and they're recalculating those school aid formulas. They have not given any municipality a time frame of when they will have those numbers ready.
If you look at typical years, previous years, when typically have you gotten those numbers?
Usually we have them by end of July, mid-July.
Okay, So mid-July, let me just say, would put us at 19th timeframe, right, 15th? This is our last meeting. So this year, you're expecting to receive that data beyond the timeframe within which the governing body has to make a decision.
Correct.
So the concern that I have here is that this governing body won't actually know the effects of the assessment that took place this year before committing to take action to do it again next year. And for that reason alone, my feeling is that we should hold off until we're able to see the results of the assessment this year, because we've gotten a lot of feedback from residents about the reevaluation that took place this year. So for that reason, I think that this governing body should simply wait until we get those results, which necessitates not taking action on this resolution or voting no on it. Is there any discussion by any council members with regard to this? Any further? Councilmember Kelly.
I've been dealing with Mark and property values and everything for, I don't know how long Mark's been on property for. You should care. Mr. Press.
Mr. Press.
What? What are you gonna do?
Mr. Press, please stop disrupting.
You can stop
Please remove Mr. Press from the council meeting. Please remove him from the meeting.
All right. Get over this now. Do it, briefly. Take that cap and shut up.
Mr. Kelly, you're speaking.
And then through those period of time, Mr. Burak, I've always relied on your expertise in what you specialize. You come from a family of tax assessors that are well respected. And I've always gone with the information that you've given me. What we have here, we don't get a second bite of the apple. We have to do this now or not. And it's not our fault with regard to the numbers of the Murphy and everything else that's going on with change of government. So if we miss this window, and we don't vote in favor for this to go forward, what you want to do with this 65,000. And I know you're not a gambling man, and you hold a hard line. I think that's a common phrase that you've always said. Is there a potentiality of this being, like, if we go forward with it, and is there a potentiality of a loss? Like, what would we potentially lose? What would be a derogative or a negative effect?
What you're looking at is the rate. The rate is an irrelevancy to what I do. The rate is a function of budget. I'm looking at assessed value and valuation of property to maintain a 100% valuation. The rate comes in at 284, 283, 290. It's irrelevant. That's based upon your budget, the state budget, schools, and the county, of what they want to spend. What someone's assessment is based upon valuation of market value for sales for assessing purposes. So having the rate or not having the rate is irrelevant to whether you approve this or don't approve it. The downside to not doing this, of now having possibly a ratio under 90%, is that when we go to court or we try to settle appeals, year one I might be successful. Year two now, I'm not. I lose 10%, I could lose 12%, I could lose 15%.
So
On the same value by not proceeding. Okay? So you're looking at it from saying, well, the rate has something to do with it. The rate has nothing to do with it. The appeal process, which every property owner has the right to file an appeal by May 1st, has to deal with where the assessments fell out relative to where we placed them. If people filed an appeal and were successful, their assessment was adjusted. If they filed an appeal and were not successful, the number that we or I placed upon it is what the new rate will be applied to. The new rate is based upon budget, it has nothing to do with the assessment.
But Mr. Burak,
I'm not done. I will not done, Council President. I know we're going to let you continue.
Mr. Kelly, Mr. Burak, with regard to the assessed value, the tax bills that are received by residents have not yet received a tax bill with their new assessment on. Is that correct? So they're going to get that sometime in August, right? So at the earliest. At the earliest, residents will see their new assessed value on a tax bill and the effect of the rate on their new valuation in August, after the time frame within which this governing body needs to make a decision on this. Mr. Kelly, please continue.
Thank you for interrupting and giving me the floor back. Mr. Burak, the concern I have, though, is it's a small investment for potential guarantee to minimize the impact for our appeal aspect of it all. Like you said, we may be great for 1 year, but the next year we could lose dramatically more so. Is that accurate?
Yes.
I don't feel comfortable voting against this.
Mr. Burek, does anything prevent this governing body from deciding to take this action next year after it has an opportunity to see the result?
The effects will already have taken place, because by the time you move forward, I cannot start the process until it's starting in 2019 for 2020. So you lose one entire year.
You will lose 1 year.
Right, so if the
But
ratio, based upon my calculation, drops into the 80 percentile range, that's a huge effect. Look at it this way: if the mall is assessed at $200 million,
And we know it's dropping.
and we defend 2018, we don't reassess, and our ratio is 80% or 85%, we're automatically losing $15 million, losing $30 million on that one appeal. If the value stayed constant from 2018 to 2019.
I did. Mr. Burak, I believe you probably make some comparisons with other municipalities and what they do, because it's common for the municipalities that surround us, Morris County.
There are several that do this on an annualized basis. Jefferson does it, Burton does it, Long Hill Township does it. It's a trend that is moving forward. Because not doing something as the values are changing consistently doesn't make sense. If you're only moving a point or two, if my ratio is going to be 98%, I would not be coming before you. When I'm going to be below 90%, that's a problem.
And Mr. Burek, you're coming before us for the next 5 years.
Well, I'm doing it for this year, 1 year only, with the possibility of expanding for the next 4. I'm only doing 1 year right now. The contract is for 1 year, for 2018 for 2019, and then we'll visit it possibly for the following year.
But this governing body, as the resolution is written, this governing body's action on your resolution gives you the ability for the next 4 years thereafter to take that action if you so choose.
It has to come up for vote again next year for it to happen again. He cannot automatically do it without it coming back with a resolution for next year, because the professional contract is going to go through.
So having heard all this, Mr. Mayor, do you still have no opinion on this resolution?
I have an opinion on it, of course. We need to do this, okay? We need to do this, and we need to do it now, because we paid back $3.2 million doing ball field, what was it?
2.7.
2.7, I'm sorry.
2.7.
You said it, though.
And the reason we are doing this,
My question was for the mayor.
So of that 2.7, we actually grabbed roughly $660,000 out of the 2.7. But under state law, the municipality has to pay back the school system. So for 4 years, I had to allocate $800,000, $700,000 in our budget just to pay back the mall. Okay? So if we don't do this, that may be another chance of us losing the tax appeal, and this municipality paying back large amounts of tax appeals, and we only collected a quarter of it. So I don't, I know Rose out there, I don't mind collecting for the school. I don't want to have to pay it back when we don't have it, because now the school gets the whole $2 million to keep, but the town loses that out of our budget. So that means the $2 million that I paid back to the mall was for fire engines, for ambulances, for services. And the budget goes up, and we hear how, I raised the budget so many years, so $500,000 each of those years, we're paying the tax bills back. So this is absolutely, positively needs to be done, if you don't want to have more challenges.
Are there any other comments? Questions from any other council members?
Council President, if I may, one more
Mr.
point.
Burek?
After we paid that refund back, when we went before local government services, we had a bond for that amount of money. We need to maintain steps moving forward to avoid this tax appeal loss. Doing the reassessment on an annual basis and being able to change values where we saw markets and areas either increasing in value or decreasing in value, increasing to bring it rateable to the town, which offsets the rate lower, or to adjust those markets or neighborhoods downward to avoid the appeals. Because once you do it in the book, it's already budgeted, is a benefit to the municipality. Again, not doing anything and letting things pile up is where we get into trouble, where we have the problem. So we need to continue to do things to keep tax appeals at bay. This is the only way to do this.
Yeah, again, my concern is given the feedback that I've gotten this year from residents about the reeval that took place this year, is they don't, first of all, very few of our residents, you've been here earlier this year, we asked you to come in and give a presentation on the reeval. We had residents in the audience who heard that. You did a great job of explaining it. It's still not something that residents understand as far as the process goes. The first tax bill they're going to get is in August. We've already gotten feedback, I've gotten feedback certainly from knocking on doors in this town with regard to the reassessment. And we didn't do a reassessment last year, correct?
Correct.
So this is the first reassessment that was done in how many years?
2012.
So in 6 years? 6 years? So we haven't had a reassessment in 6 years. The first one is this year. The first tax bills are going to come in August. We have residents who really don't understand the process. I think we haven't had an opportunity to see the effect. That's really my concern. My preference would be to see the results in August, even if it means skipping a year, because we still have the opportunity next year to continue with this program. So I still have that concern. But if there are no other questions or comments, I will call it for a vote.
I have one more.
Councilmember Kelly.
Mr. Burek, because of your quarterly inspection that you do with 2,500 homes on a yearly basis, is that assisted to minimize the need for a reval?
It is assisted because over those last 5 years, realize our ratio range stayed 93, 94%. We pulled the trigger for 18 because our proposed ratio is going to be 85.64%. That's why we did the inspections to people who are open to do the changes in value. Now looking at, we do a reassessment and our ratio range is still going to be under 90%. That is dangerous territory. So where you need to keep making those changes in value to stay at 100% market value, to stay constant across the board. Because based upon the ratio range, right now of the sales that we have 147 sales up to date. We have between 70-80% ratio, which means under assessed, we have 22. From an 80 to 90% range, we have 40 sales. From the 90 to 100% range, within that 100%, we have 52 sales. So it's clearly showing me, based upon the sales that have occurred to what we just reassessed, there are still markets that are under assessed. There are still markets that which rateable can be brought in. It's showing me that there is still a need to adjust values. If my ratio was, everything was 95, 96%, I'm not going to be here. There's no reason. But I'm seeing still too much deviation in valuation. And that's an important number to look at, being below 90%.
Mr. Burek, the number you said that you expect to be at about 89% next year?
Based upon my prelim calculation, and we're receiving deeds daily now from the state, my ratio is proposed at 88.22%.
And where were you the year before last when you proposed the
85.64.
Okay. If we didn't do this next year, then the next opportunity to do this would be the following year.
19.20.
Would you not be able to get to 100% in that reassessment in that year?
But then you're raising values a lot higher. The market conditions continue to go up. The Instead of saying, well, we're say 88% and we're gonna bring everybody up anywhere around, say, 10%. Say the ratio goes down to 78%. Now I'm raising people by 20%.
Do you think it's likely that we may go down towards 78%?
Based on the sales that are coming in? Absolutely.
You believe it's likely, not just possible?
I'm saying it's possible. Like I said, when I'm looking at the sales that we have between 70% to a high of 90. There's 62 sales. 62, more than 50% of the sales are under 90%.
So is it possible that we would have a reeval next year, and with your prediction of values continuing to go up, another reeval the year after that as well?
We'd have to look at the data. You have to constantly look at the data. If after this year, if the market starts to cool and our ratio is staying in the 90s, then there is really no reason to.
Yeah, my concern is that there's a lag between your office getting the data and our residents and our taxpayers getting their actual tax bills and feeling the effects of it. But I'm prepared to call the question if there are no further comments.
I have one more.
Councilmember Kelly.
I apologize.
Give me one moment.
Mr. Burak, in the sense of this, as an easy analogy, if you had a gym membership that went up a small amount per year versus you don't do anything of an increase and then all of a sudden you shock the member of a 20% membership fee. I mean, it's kind of basically how it's going on here. If you don't regulate this over the course of time, it could be an ultra shock like we did back in, I think, 2002, and then in 2012, it was a really heavy hit.
2001 to 2002 was a huge increase. 2011 to 2012 was also because our ratio at that time was 67%.
Now, since the numbers always seem to come in at a specific time, other than because of what's going on right now with the governor, we generally aren't going to get these numbers anyways before the threshold date that you need to make this pull the trigger. So if we have a July 16th period, even in 2019 to move forward, we may not have those numbers even at that particular time. We may get lucky, but we may not. We may fall into the same thing. So you're always going to try to go based on your data and your expertise from these inspections and assessments to help you with those numbers to make a fair assessment or direction. And again, the rebate that we would potentially get back from the small investment for going forward would still pay for itself.
Yeah, I don't like the fact that the residents, taxpayers are essentially in the dark as we're making these decisions a year out. And we'll see what happens. So I'm going to call the question if there are no further comments or questions about this. All right, so we're voting on Resolution R-124. Excuse me. We're voting on Resolution R-18-124, resolution granting authorization to enter into a professional service agreement for annual reassessment services to Appraisal Systems, Inc. in the amount not to exceed $65,000 for the tax year 2019. Is there a motion?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Councilmember Puccio moved it. Councilmember Friedlander seconded it. I'll call the roll. Councilmember Quinn has already left. Councilmember Friedlander.
Yes.
Councilmember Puccio.
Yes.
Councilmember Palumbo.
Yes.
Councilmember Smith.
Yes.
Councilmember Sackett.
Yes.
Councilmember Kelly.
Yes.
Vice President Abrahamson.
Yes.
Council President Jednak, I vote yes. 9 yes, 0 no, 0 abstentions. Eight yes, 0 no, 0 abstentions, twin absent. The resolution passes. Thank you for the correction.
Thank you for coming out.
Given that it's now after midnight, I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn. Is there a motion? Councilmember Puccio, seconded by Friedlander. Call the roll. Quinn is absent. Friedlander.
Yes.
Puccio. Palumbo. Smith. Sackett.
Yes.
Kelly. No. Abrahamson. Jednak, I vote yes. Meeting adjourned.